Hi, ladies. Welcome back, New York City Women Music Producers Bootcamp, and we are on week 5. Thanks for joining us. We're just going to cover what we did during the workshop, week 5. So, we will start with intro to gain staging. This is a really important term. You will be hearing this a lot because right now we are the producers, we are also the songwriters. Also, we will start fixing our sound in the beginning, so we need to be familiar with these terms: gain staging and intro to vocal tracking. And from this point, we will call this vocal tracking because that's what people call this in the industry, because that's what it's called in the industry. Type vocal tracking on Google, type gain staging on Google for more details. These are all over the internet. This is not new information. Top schools have the same concept, they have the same content. Or if you go on YouTube, you will find the same content. So it's all over the place. Nothing special here, ladies. Okay, let's start our vocal tracking journey and learn about gain. We care about the input level, and it's called gain. You remember previous weeks, some of you asked what is the difference between volume and the gain. So volume is the fader, and it's the output of the signal, but the gain is the input of the signal. So start fixing your signal with the gain. This is going to be our goal. More than the fader, we will talk about gain more, which is basically an output level. Fader is an output level on DAW. So where gain staging starts. Go back to your audio interface, lower the gain knob if it's too loud. Or go back to your audio interface, increase the gain if it's too low. You remember we talked about the decent loudness of a signal. So what is the decent loudness of a signal? I don't know if you remember this, but we can just totally type it again. -12, -18. So highest point is -12 and lowest point is -18. If your average level is around this area, if this is your average level, then you will be safe. Even if you have some peaks around -6 or -7, you're still going to be fine. Just make sure overall sound, this is going to be your highest point, this is going to be your lowest point. Just make sure you are around this range. That way it could be fixable for your signal. So why gain? Because of the clarity of the signal, because of the quality of the signal, because of the character of the signal. So when you just go on the fader and move these knobs, you're not fixing anything. But if you go back to your audio interface and lower or increase it, then you start fixing your signal in the beginning before it starts creating problems for you. So that's why gain staging is one of the most important things we should be talking about it very often. Decent loudness, tracking, which means recording. We will start using tracking from now on because that's what people use in the industry. Tracking at a decent loudness is the key to get the quality, studio quality in your bedroom. Can you do that? Yes, you can do that. Good news. So it's called gain staging. It's called gain controlling. Gain staging is controlling your levels at each stage, step by step. First step is your input preamp on your preamp, or go on your audio interface and play with the gain. That is your input level. Okay, and gain staging, how engineers look at gain staging. When you speak about gain staging to an engineer, this is what they picture. Non-clipping signal. Engineer's view. Your vocals is just a signal to them. They do not care about how lovely you sing. They care about if your loudness is okay. They care about if you have decent input level. So, how producers look at gain staging. Okay, I shouldn't hit the red, right? Also, you will be producing your songs by yourself. Just make sure you're not hitting the red any of these channels. And if you hit red on this master channel, it's okay, we can try our best, but just make sure you're not hitting any red on these channels. Let's say you're hitting red on master channel, but all your channels are safe, you're not hitting any red. This is fixable. You can go on the master channel and there are some tricks. The reason it is on red, the reason is because some of the content is overlapping. We'll talk about those. It's called spectrum analyzer. So we will talk about those detail. Just know that so far, don't hit the red, don't see the reds. Red means above 0. Above 0 means too loud. We talked about it last week, but don't worry, we're going to repeat it again and again. How top line singers, songwriters look at gain staging. Good takes, decent levels, ready to send to producers, engineers. So everyone is happy at this point. So you can mix all this knowledge together. Just make sure you're between your average levels are between -12 and -18, which is sweet spot for many processing during mixing stage. We'll talk about that sweet spot later if we need. But you're a songwriter, maybe you might not need to know that, but it's okay. Knowledge is power. Producer, just make sure you're not seeing the red. Singer-songwriter, just feel like you provide this decent quality recordings to your producers or engineers. Where does gain staging starts? Where does it start? Here is the input level. You can go on any preamp. If you own a preamp, just go on your preamp and you will see input gain knob here. This is a fancy one. This is one of my favorite ones, and I never had any of these. So, so your first and most important volume control, gain on your preamp or gain on your audio interface. Which audio interface? Maybe this one. Audio interface, you know, you're very familiar with this one. I keep repeating this one is really cool and it's cheap. It's $80 something. And you get what you do get good stuff from this little device. So technique, what technique are you gonna use? Lower if your signal is too loud. Increase it if your signal is too quiet. Remember, you pick up a lot of background noise when you record too quiet. Don't forget about this. We always talk about how bad recording loud is, but we should also talk about how bad it is to record something really quiet. Again, same here, same knob. Look, always same knob. So this stuff might look really complicated for you, but actually it's not. Just look for the input gain. And here is your gain. And doesn't matter which audio interface you have, it's going to be the same thing. Gain knob. It's going to be everywhere, your gain. Okay. And this is another audio interface. Here is 2 gain knobs. This one has 2 gain knobs because it has 2 preamps. One for vocal, one for your guitar maybe. You can plug your guitar. These are both mono signals anyway, so you can have 2 separate channels. You can record them simultaneously. So it has 2 gains, means 2 preamps. First level we care about is the gain. This is the audio interface, this is a preamp, this is an iOS audio interface, and it's always the gain, ladies. And second level we care about when we are tracking our vocals. The second level we care about is the background instrument playback level. Why? Because we're not able to hear ourselves, right? So we're recording, we're tracking, but how am I gonna hear myself? If I do not hear myself, I will not give my best performance. Okay, let's say you got this part done. Great job, I will say. Great job. Thank you so much for staying at the safe levels. Here's the safe levels, loudest, quietest. Thank you so much for doing this part. This was the most important part already, but thank you for doing this. And second level we care about is now your background instrument playback level, because if it's too loud, you will not be able to hear yourself properly. And if it's too low, you will not feel like comfortable in the song. You're not going to feel like you belong in the song. So that's why what I recommend, here is your background instrument, 1 stereo track. And here are your vocal channels. Look how many of these, at least 20, 30, because you will be recording again, and again. And you will have multiple vocal recording channels, but you will have only 1 background instrument, 1 stereo track. That's all you will have. And that way, it will be easier to lower the volume of this. Why do you need to lower the volume of this one? It's because you're not able to hear yourself. That's why. Probably this one is too loud. That could be the reason that you're not able to hear yourself properly. So adjust the volume of this one. You're only using this as bass anyways. You don't even need this. You're just using this to sing on it, to playback on it, right? Okay. Let's go back to this slide. This guy says, I cannot hear myself. I need to increase my volume. No. What do we say? No, do not increase your volume if you already are between average safe recording levels, which is this. If you've done this part, don't touch it. Lower the background instruments instead. Otherwise, you will not be able to hear yourself, or you will go back here to your gain adjustment and you're gonna mess it up. So just make sure once you get these levels, keep it. Don't change it. Why do we lower background instrument volume for basic affordable home studio setup? You might not have much control on your monitoring level. What is monitoring level? Monitoring level is the way you hear yourself as you're recording. How will you record if you're not gonna hear yourself, right? You should be able to hear yourself properly. That way you can give your best performance. That way you can understand what part of the song you're recording. You will be able to hear yourself properly. So the solution for that, if you're not able to hear yourself properly, there are a few solutions. First, lower the background instrument signal chain. That is the first one. We talked about it. And second, this is another important detail. Create a dedicated project for vocal tracking. Just for vocal tracking, ladies. Just for vocal tracking, create a dedicated project for vocal tracking, and all your background instruments should be on one track. Here it is. This is what I'm talking about. I mean, we talked about it already, so you already know. Just make sure you have this dedicated vocal recording project, and you're ready to go. You set your levels. Your input is average between -12 and -18, so you're doing good. Your input level is fine, but you still cannot hear yourself. Then go back to this channel and lower the volume. That way you will be able to hear yourself. If you have a good audio interface, you will be able to monitor yourself already properly. So third, monitoring level, we already talked about it. Monitoring level is what you hear on your headphones while you're recording your vocals. So what you hear is very important, ladies. Finding a comfort monitoring level is really, really hard. But don't worry, because you will experiment. How? First, make sure you hear yourself. Second, make sure you feel belong in the song. That is a hard one. Third, make sure there's no bleeding into headset. So there's no bleeding. So we will talk about those. Give me 1 minute. I'm actually recording this video during work. So I have to enter my password and all. Okay, I'm back. 1 more minute, ladies. Okay, perfect. Okay, so now we're gonna talk about these elements one by one. How? Make sure you hear yourself, but how? Adjust the background. Lower the background instruments if necessary, so you won't have to push your own preamp, own gain hard, and experiment as much as you can. Second, make sure you feel belong in the song. That is a hard one. Why? Because feeling belong in the song means you're gonna need to add a lot of effects on your input chain. A lot of effects, and that is gonna eat your CPU, and you will have issues on your sessions, and it is going to create latency problem as well. However, in Basic Home Studio, if you add these effects on your channel, you might get a lot of latency during your tracking, which is recording. So we will talk about this CPU already, so we'll just save it for the next one. So make sure you feel belong in the song. Again, still the hard one. But if you have like an audio interface like this will allow you to hear yourself better with all these effects, because it has built-in effects on this hard drive. You set it up and you will have all these effects, and you will be able to monitor yourself with these effects, and you will be able to adjust those effects. That way when you're singing, you will hear a nice reverb, you will hear nice compression, and if you sing too loud, your signal is not gonna go crazy, and if you sing too quiet, your microphone is still gonna catch it. So there are audio interfaces that have built-in effect options, so you get to feel belong in the song as you're singing. You can add all those effects on your monitoring signal, and you will record dry, not dry, dry, but the feeling will be correct. So once you will be hearing all these effects, but once you record, it will be all recorded dry anyway. So these effects just to make you feel good and to get the best performance out of you. How? Again, third one, make sure there's no bleeding into headset. Bleeding, ladies, this is a really very common term in audio engineering. Bleeding means everything you record, everything your microphone picks up as you're recording or tracking. So whatever your microphone, this microphone is a large diaphragm microphone, we talked about this already, and it picks up everything. Whatever is around you, this is gonna pick up. This is gonna pick up everything. So bleeding, this also picks up the headset noise. Let's say you're tracking, you're singing, you're recording, and there's noise coming from your headset. Because why? Because of the shape of the headset, because of the manufacturing design of the headset. There's gonna be sound coming out of the headset. And this microphone isn't even gonna pick that. Crazy, right? I know, but that's how it works. Maybe a click sound. So as you're recording, you're probably using click, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, bip, bip, bip. So most of the time, those microphones pick up those click sounds. So just be careful with that. Lower your clip sound if you have like a high clip sound, or if you have like a toned click sound, just lower that. Just make sure you manage it properly. Otherwise, this microphone is going to pick it up. Maybe someone is snoring. Oh, that is possible. It happened to me. So maybe microphone picks up the sound coming from the headset during recording. That is a popular one. We already mentioned it. It's a very popular one. Microphone is going to pick up every sound. So that's why we call it bleeding, and make sure to avoid any type of bleeding, ladies. And how are you going to achieve this? Again, recording again, practicing. So make sure there's no bleeding. Please find the mistakes this guy makes as he is recording his vocals, tracking actually. Okay, let's talk about this. Do you see any mistakes here? I see multiple. Okay, let's go over this one by one. First, think about the polar pattern of the microphone he's using. He is using large diaphragm microphone. Large diaphragm microphone has like a really tube, like a little bit large tube here. That is like a large diaphragm microphone, and it is famous to pick up the vocal sounds or any type of instrument with the long tail. So if you're playing some instrument with long tail, like guitar, like some acoustic instrument, this will be helpful to pick up all those sounds. But let's say you're playing drums. Most of the time, drum microphones are completely different, and some of them are actually small diaphragm microphones, because small diaphragm microphones are better to pick up the short sounds, not the ones with long tails. So this one with the long tail, so I can tell this is a large diaphragm microphone, but where is the polar pattern? What is the polar pattern? This guy cannot sing it here. He has to be here. Let me draw it for you. Position is wrong, ladies. His mouth has to be here. This is the position. You cannot just sing from here, because this part of the microphone is not your correct polar pattern. This is where you will get the best signal. This is the area, ladies. Horizontally, his position is incorrect. Exactly. So let's find some other mistakes. Where's the pop filter? There's no pop filter. What does pop filter do? Pop filter is gonna protect your signal from popping sounds like P, G, T, K. Let's say I'll just give the same example each time. you're breaking my heart. When I say you're breaking my heart, B is a popping sound. A T is a popping sound. So these are going to be creating issues for your signal. So we use pop filter. We use like something like this, a pop filter between you and the vocal. There should be pop filter here. So that is another issue we found. Okay, let's go back. Let's go to the third one. He cannot hear himself properly from his headset. That's why he left a little bit room on his left ear so he can hear his own voice, because probably his monitoring level is bad. So when you have bad monitoring level, this happens to me a lot at the stage, because I always have bad monitoring level because audience is always changing. Some people are coming into the club, they're leaving the club, and it's always changing. I have to adjust my values like the entire time. It's never static. So what happens, I always, remove my headset a little bit so I can hear my own voice a little bit more, so I get to manage the sound better. So this guy is doing this as he is recording track and vocals. And when you're tracking vocals, your environment already needs to be quiet, so you shouldn't be having any issues. You should just put the microphone, put the headset, and you should be able to hear properly, and you will adjust it only once. So that's why he left some room for his ear, because he couldn't adjust the monitoring level. He cannot hear himself because his monitoring levels are bad. He needs to practice. Additional touch-up points for the next sessions. We're just gonna leave these touch-up points for the next sessions, because these are deep ones. Technical issues while you're tracking, setting the buffer size, CPU management. We're gonna talk about it. This one is very important, ladies. Yeah, this is very important, because this is gonna slow you down. This is most of the time, this is the thing slows people down a lot during production or recording or tracking. Setting up your recording resolution, we'll take care of those. We talked about it already, but we just go over it one more time. CPU manage overall for tracking and monitoring. This is a very important topic again, because this is gonna slow you down, you'll see. Printing, and finally printing your recordings and send it to Sonia. Sonia is our bootcamp. She created this Sonia sampling bootcamp. So every week we record some sounds, and if you can send it to her. And finally, we can talk about those sounds, those recordings, those takes. Recording, we call it take. If you remember, take. From now on, we will call these take, because why engineers also call these takes. They don't call these recordings. I'm so sorry. I'll just delete that. Okay, you will be able to manage all these technical issues. You will be able to reach your fast workflow, because why? You are awesome. All right, ladies. See you next week. Bye.